Mr. Glenn Lundy.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. When they asked me to come speak to y'all, I asked them who we were speaking to, who I was going to be speaking to. And they said that I was going to be speaking to some kids, but they said that y'all was some like grown kids. Like y'all in the real world kids, is that right? Raise your hand if you're a grown kid. We got some grown kids in the room? That's what they told me. They said we're going to be speaking to some grown kids. So I was hoping we could have some real talk tonight. We're going to have some real talk. Because I remember the first time I ever went to jail. Very first time I ever went to jail. I was drunk. I was fighting. I went to jail. I remember I thought I was the coolest thing ever walking in. But then as I walked in, the security guard was holding me. Don't go that way. The security guard was holding me by the handcuffs. He's walking me in. And this dude was in the cell, this big Mexican dude. He had real long hair, swole. Boy was swole, tatted head to toe. And he started banging on the glass. He was just banging, bang, 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 bang. Bang, 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 bang. Banging on the glass the whole time. And he said, I need you to bring that N-word. I won't drop it. But he said, I need you to bring that N-word in here right now. I'm gonna kill him. So the security guys, they held me out for a while. This dude kept banging on the wall, banging on the wall, banging on the wall, banging on the wall. Hours went by. I was terrified. I said, please don't put me in that cell. Please don't put me in that cell. And after a little bit of time, she said, look, man, I got to put you in the cell, but don't worry, we're right here. We're right here, we got you. I'm like, you ain't got me, this dude's huge. So she walks me over to the door. The door opens up. Man, this cord is gonna get me. Door opens up. Homeboy walks right up to me, I walk right up to him. I'm scared to death. And he comes up to me, he says, what's up, my man? He said, I'm just messing with you, dog. I just don't like cops, man. I just messing with the cops. You cool, you're gonna be cool in here, you're gonna be cool. So that was my first experience in jail. My second experience in jail wasn't so pleasurable. Second time I went to jail, I went to a jail called Durango. I went to Durango for stealing, writing cold checks, taking other people's money. And when I went to Durango, I remember them walking me in that first night. They put me in this cell with about 50 other dudes. There wasn't enough room to lay down. There was enough room to squat. You could squat or you could stand. Those were your two positions. There was a big pile of rotted bananas and rotted apples and peanut butter sitting in the corner. There was roaches crawling all over the floor. They left me in this cell with these men for about 36 hours. After they took me out of that cell, they walked me over. They walked me over and they stripped off all my clothes. And they made me bend over so they could check in places to make sure I didn't have drugs or paraphernalia. They stripped away my dignity, my pride, took everything away from me. And then they threw me in a jail cell with a guy named Scott. Scott was about 6'6", 280 pounds, white dude, bald white dude. They put me in a cell with Scott, and I got to know Scott a little bit. Scott was what they called an enforcer. So an enforcer in jail, so you got the leaders in jail, right? The leaders in jail are cool. The leaders in jail are smart. They get their enforcers to go out and do all the dirty work so they don't get in trouble. So I shared a room with Scott. Scott was an enforcer. And so Scott told me, he's like, Glenn, you're gonna have to pick a side. He said, you're a little too dark to be white, and you're a little too light to be black. Where are you gonna go? I didn't know the answer to that question. I just knew I was scared. I knew I was scared because I was in there all alone. And I remember laying in my bunk. I just stayed in my bunk. I just stayed in my bunk as much as I could. I would stay and I would read. I would just read and I would pray, please, God, get me out of here. I never prayed before I went in, but I sure prayed once I was in there. So I remember laying in my bunk once, and there was this poor kid, everybody thought he was a snitch. And so they had asked Scott and two of the other enforcers to take care of this young man. And when I say take care of this young man, you actually had to pay commissary if you wanted to be a part of it, if you wanted to watch it. And they knew the tracks that the guards would take. They knew when the guards were watching and when they weren't. And they set this boy up to when he went into the bathroom and all the enforcers followed him in, and anybody that paid 2 candy bars could go watch this kid get the life beat out of him. And I just remember laying in my bunk, hearing the sounds of screams, of shrills, of this young man begging for mercy. I live down in Squires Point right now. There's a bunch of coyotes out there. Every once in a while, they'll get a hold of a little calf. It reminds me every time I hear that calf scream of the time that I was in the Durango jail. Now, I also remember the third time that I went to jail. My father was 52 years old, played basketball every day of his life. He was a referee, had a big old smile. He was a great guy. He laid down on a Sunday afternoon. And he never woke up. Just laid down, took a nap on a Sunday, never woke up, that was it. And when they called me, I lived here in Kentucky, they told me I'd go home for my dad's funeral, so I did. I flew out and we buried my father, and after burying my father, we went to the gym and we played a little bit and kind of celebrated his life, and then I went to Mom's house and had my drinks and smoked my weed and all that good stuff. The next morning at 6 a.m., I woke up on the couch and I was surrounded by guns. There were police officers at every inch of my mother's house, all guns pointed at me. You see, my father has the same name as me, Glenn Lundy. And when he died, they searched the records and they saw that I still had a warrant for something I hadn't taken care of. So they were kind enough to allow me to watch my father be buried, but they weren't letting me back out of town. When they took me to jail that last time, I started to take a good look at my life. I started to take a look and go, okay, what's the common denominator here? What keeps going on? Why do I keep ending up in jail cells? So I looked at my life and I was drinking, and I was drugging, I was chasing, all the fun things that satisfied me. And so I realized when I was in that jail cell, I thought, wait a minute. This whole time, my whole life, every time I'm in one of these spots, it's always been about me. I've always been doing an action for me, something to benefit me, stealing from someone else for me. It was always for me. And so when I got out of jail, I thought, maybe I should switch it up. Maybe I should start living for we instead of me. Everybody say we instead of me. Let's say it again. Say we instead of me. So I started living for we. And when I made this shift, I came out here to this good old place called Paris, Kentucky. Anybody know Paris, Kentucky? It's a good place, man. I love me some Paris, Kentucky. So I came out here to Paris, Kentucky, and I got a job over at Dan Cummins. Anybody know Dan Cummins? I got a job over at Dan Cummins, and I went into my job and I said, wait a minute, how can I make this about we and not me? And so I went in there brand new as a salesperson. And I started working, I started selling cars, and I started making my way up through the ranks. And instead of it always being about me, I just would make it about we. I would try to encourage others, I would try to train others, I would try to lift others up, I would try to help as many customers as I could. It was just we, every day of my life, we. How can I get into the we? I want to spend time in the we, because when I spend time with me, I end up in a jail cell. And as I continued to focus on we as a dealership continued to rise. I got to work with some of the most incredible human beings I've ever met in my life. Dusty Cummins, Josh Cummins, just incredible human beings. And I went from salesperson to sales manager to general sales manager to general manager. And as I went up, the business went up and the business kept going up. And we went from being a little tiny store in Paris, Kentucky to the second largest used car franchise dealership in the country. Out of 17,000 stores, number 2 in the country. And it's because everyone in the building was focused on we and not me. As I've continued to focus on the we, I was able to meet my wife. We now have 7 kids. Yes, that's right, 7 kids. Anybody babysit? Anybody babysit? You will? I'm gonna sign you up. As a matter of fact, I got a shirt right here in the backpack. Remind me, I'm gonna get you a shirt. You on my babysitter team now. But I got 7 babies. As I started focusing on the we, I started focusing on my wife, and I started developing a better relationship with her. I started focusing on the we, I started developing a better relationship with my kids and a better relationship in my life. As I started focusing on the we, I started to look up and realize that I'm not alone. It's not just me. It's all about we. And as I continued to dive into that and learn more about what this we looks like, I kept looking for additional opportunities. How can I spend more time in the we? How can I spend more time pouring into others? How can I spend more time lifting others, encouraging others? And that led me to this thing called Rise and Grind, which is what I wear on my shirt now today. This is a show that I do it on Facebook. We've got 30,000 followers that follow my show, 50,000 views every single month. And that show has brought me opportunities where now I get to travel all over the world. In the last couple of months, I've been to Greece. Anybody ever been to Greece? Greece is a cool place. I've been to Greece, I've been to Miami, I've been to Orlando, I've been to Las Vegas, I've been to Phoenix. I was actually in Phoenix with Eric Thomas, E.T., the hip hop preacher. Anybody know him? No? Too old? You know him. When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe. You guys, anybody ever heard that? Oh man, y'all need some Eric Thomas in your life. But I've gotten to spend time with Eric Thomas. I've gotten to do all of these things when I started to focus on we. And I started to build my business. And I realized something. I realized, man, when you focus on we, and you really focus on moving people's lives forward, it pays. It pays. See, I used to run around like a hoodlum thinking it was fun and we could just drink and we could smoke and we could rob and we could steal and that would pay. But I'm here to tell you, that don't pay. When you start taking care of the we, it pays. Brandon, where's Brandon? Brandon's a part. Everybody say, hi, Brandon. Hey, what did my company do last month? $87,000 last month. That's what happens when you focus on the we. So the message that I want to share with you, the reason I'm here today, the reason that they asked me to speak to you is I want you to learn something that took me a really long time to learn. I want you to learn that your value, your paycheck, your dollars are all going to be determined by your ability to move other people forward. You see, I know something about you that you might not know. I know for a fact that you are a child of God. The God of the universe, the God that made everything, He made you. He made you to be the absolute best version of yourself that you can possibly be. That's how He made you. And He put you here and you here and you here to make an impact on other people's lives. It is not about me, it's always been about we. And as you guys are starting to be grown kids, like we talked about earlier, I'm gonna need you to start thinking with grown kids' mindsets, which is the fact that every single decision you make is gonna have an impact on somebody else's life. And if you make the right decisions, the good decisions, the maybe not so cool decisions, when you make those, you can move other people's lives forward. Anybody know Drake? Okay, I'm here to tell you that Drake is not famous and successful because he can sing. Drake is famous and successful because he can move other people to sing. Beyonce is not famous and successful because she can dance. Beyonce is famous and successful because she can make you dance. Steph Curry is not famous and successful because he can drop a three. He's famous and successful because he can break a dude's ankle and have you jump up out your seat. Your value will be determined by your ability to move people's lives forward. Right now, Black Achievers has come together. They've created something really special here. They've created an opportunity. They are participating in the we. If they were about me, we wouldn't be here right now. If they were about me, you wouldn't have these scholarships, these opportunities. None of it would exist. But instead, they're about we, and you young people have an incredible opportunity right now that I never had. You have an incredible opportunity with the internet, with technology, with your ability to connect with other people. You can do we like never before. It's all determined on how you decide to use it. So let's say it again. I want you to say, not me, we. Say it again, not me, we. One more time. Say, not me, we. Listen, I'm gonna close up real quick. I just want to share something with you. I don't want you to learn the way I learned. I don't want you to have to go through the things that I went through. I told you about the 3 times I've been to jail. I've been to jail 17 total. I don't want you to learn the hard way. It took me a long time. I was hard-headed. But you have an opportunity today. See, I now know God put you here so that you can rise every single day. Rise every single day in a way that you start and begin and continue to evolve into the absolute best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Because when you do, it is going to make a massive impact on this planet. And the best part is we get to do it all together. Right on? Right on. Anybody want a shirt? I'm good. Y'all got shirts? I got shirts, I got backpacks. Thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you, Black Achievers. This is an amazing event. My man over there, Lamont. Appreciate you. Thank you, Drew.